For today's deck tech, we have Kaalia of the Vast. She is one of the commanders that came out in last year's commander sets. Today will be my introduction to her and how my use in multiplayer has affected this deck. Alright, so for Kaalia, you can see she is a legendary human cleric. She's a 2/2 flyer, and she costs 1 colorless, white, black, and red. She has flying, and the ability that makes her just way overpowered is that when she attacks, you can take a demon, angel, or dragon from your hand, put it on the field, tapped and attacking. And this deck completely utilizes it. This is built for multiplayer, as I said, so cards may be different in your playgroup if you're doing one-on-one. So here we go. We'll start with the creatures. First we have Angel of Despair. She is a 5/5 angel with flying, obviously. She costs 7 mana, and when she comes into play at all, she destroys target permanent. She's really good for destroying any troublesome enchantments or artifacts that are hindering your general from attacking, or just anything that's not helping you advance the game more. Next we have Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight. She is 7 mana. She's a 5/5 flying first strike. With her on the field, all the damage I do is doubled, and all the damage my opponents do is doubled to everyone else. But anyone attacking me, all the damage is halved. Next we have, you could say a wrath creature in a way, but Rakdos of the Filer. He is a 6 mana demon. He is a 7/6 flying trample, and the reason I have him in this deck is because Kaalia, her ability allows me to negate his second ability that when he attacks, I would have to sacrifice my permanents. But instead, Kaalia's ability allows me to sacrifice their it doesn't allow me to sacrifice their permanent. It allows me to use the first ability to have them sacrifice their permanents instead of me. Next we have Steel Hellkite. He's a 6 mana dragon. He's 5/5. Obviously he has flying too. He has fire breathing for 2 for 1. And has the ability that when he does damage, you can pay X to destroy each non-land permanent with the converted mana cost that you paid for. This has come in handy so many times in my game where I've had to kill token decks. Next we have Baneslayer Angel. She's 5 mana. She's an angel. She's a 5/5, and she has pretty much helped me in many games where towards the end of the game I'm starting to lose life a lot. She'll be a protector from a lot of generals, and she gives me a lot of life back. Next is one of my key creatures in this deck. I have Avacyn, Angel of Hope. She is 8 mana. She's an 8/8 flying and vigilance, and that when she is in play, all my other permanents I control are indestructible. Next is Iona, Shield of Emeria. She is 9 mana. She is a 7/7. This I only play on the field when I feel like I'm being overrun by a certain color. So normally I'll tutor her up in my deck, and say 2/3 of the board on my game would be blue or black, and I'll call out black or blue, whichever I need to, and it helps me to swing in there, not having to worry about counters or kills on my general. Next we have Chroma, Angel of Wrath. She's also 8 mana. She's a 6/6 flying first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, pro red, and pro black. Really, she's just an angel that's a beat stick, and she's a wall sometimes. That's the only reason she's in here. Next we have a nice utility creature, Angelic Arbiter. She is 7 mana. She's a 5/6, and that has the ability, if my opponents cast a spell this turn, they cannot attack, or if they attack this turn, they cannot cast spells. This has saved me in a lot of games where people mess up by doing one or the other first, and then not realizing they do the other, and then kill me what they could have done if they could attack. Next we have Rhea Dawnbringer. She's a great late game angel when I have a lot of my creatures in the field from many wraths. She allows me to bring back creatures from my field every upkeep. She is a 4/6 for 9 mana also. Next we have Grand Abolisher. For you green players who like City of Solitude, this is City of Solitude on a creature and a bus. But getting him out turn 2 is pretty nice because it allows me to protect my general and allows me to protect any equipment that I have for my general, say boots or whatnot. And I don't have to worry about getting attacked by spells or disenchants on anything. It's 2 mana for a 2/2, and he's a human cleric. Next we have Victory's Herald. It's 6 mana, angel, 4/4 flyer, and that when Victory Herald attacks, all creatures attacking this turn gain flying and lifelink until end of turn. This has helped a lot when I have like 5/5/5 flyers and her on the field, especially if I have Fervor out or any other haste abilities. It becomes in really good handy late game. Next is Karmic Guide. Karmic Guide is 5 mana. She's an angel, actually, not a summon spirit, but she's a 2/2. It has flying, pro black, and echo, and then when she hits the field, I can take a creature from my graveyard and put it onto the field. This is great. So say if later in the game my general gets put in the field, the graveyard, and I have her in my hand, I can just play her and then get my general back on the field without having to pay the extra mana cost. Or any of my big fatties in the graveyard, I can just bring back with her. Next we have Runescar Demon. He's 7 mana, demon, 6/6 with flying. Basically, demonic tutor on a stick. This is one of my iffy cards I could possibly take out. But we have Harvester of Souls. He is 6 mana. He's a demon. He's 5/5. Has Death Touch, and whenever another non-token creature dies, I may draw a card. This is great for when I have my one-sided Wraths in my deck, or if someone chooses Austere Command and does lower creatures in my games. But no matter what, if he's out for a turn or two, you're going to be drawing some cards. Next we have Skittles, or Skithedrix, the Blight Dragon. He's 5 mana. He's a dragon and a 4/4 flyer with Infect. He also has pay 1 black to give him haste until end of turn, or pay 2 black to regenerate him. This is great to get early in the game. You can kill someone if you give it double strike early, or it's a great blocker for someone's general that's just tremendously huge. Next we have Moonveil Dragon. It's 6 mana. It's a dragon, obviously, flying, and it's a 5/5. And for each creature I control, they get a +1/+0 for 1 red. So basically, he gives all my creatures fire breathing for 1 red. It's really nice when I have a bunch of creatures out in the field. Moonveil Dragon can come out for a better dragon. I just haven't found a better one yet for him. We'll see later in the future as Ravnica comes out. One of my favorite dragons in the deck, because it allows me to refill my hand, is Dragon Mage. He's 7 mana. He's a flying 5/5 dragon, obviously. When he attacks and does combat damage, all players, including me, discard our hand and then draw 7 cards. So if he does damage to you, not to me, but to my opponents, he does Wheel of Fortune to everybody. This has come in handy many, many times. It's a great political card in the game. So if you have this out and you don't need a new hand, you can always work with your opponents or with your allies and say, if you don't attack me, I will refill your hand. This has saved me many games. Next we have Scourge of Courages. He is 8 mana, dragon, 6/6 with flying. Has 2 mana, or 1 colorless and 1 red, to do 2 damage each to each creature without flying, or pay 5 colorless and 6 red to do 6 damage to each other creature with flying. This is a new dragon I've put in here. I haven't tested him yet. I haven't tested him yet at all. But he seems to be pretty good. I've used him a few times just as a physical body. I haven't used his ability much. And I'll probably update you on if this dragon comes out or not in future updates of this deck. A great damage dragon I have in here is Ryusei the Falling Star. He's 6 mana, 5/5 flyer, and when he is put into the graveyard from field, he does 5 damage to each creature without flying. So again, this is another one of those cards for if your opponent is running lots of tokens, you could just wipe them off the field by either sacrificing him for something or just wrathing the board. Next we have Balefire Dragon, one of the best wraths in this whole deck. I would say, when he comes out by her effect, he does damage to your opponent. He does 6 damage to each creature that player controls, because his ability says you do damage equal to its power. He's 7 mana, and we'll go to the next one. Next, we start with the artifacts we have in this deck. Because I run a bunch of big fatties and having them on the field for their abilities is pretty nice, I run Mimic Vat. This is also great for having my general being out of Mimic Vat. If my general gets blown up and I want to get a creature out there fast, I'll Mimic Vat my general after she's dead, make a token of her. She's got haste, and then I'd attack and put out a card for free. And if I really ever wanted to, I'd just take someone else's general or someone else's great card and put it on here. This has come into handy many times in my games. Another fast way to get creatures out in my deck is Quicksilver Amulet. It is 4 mana, and I can tap for 4 to put a creature card from my hand onto the battlefield. This has helped me with my big fatties after Kaalia has died. No one really destroys it because they don't think I'm ever going to use it very much, but Amulet has won me games several times. Next is a defensive artifact. It's Defense Grid for 2 mana, and during each player's turn, spells played by another player cost an additional 3 mana to cost. So say it's your turn and you have your general coming out. They can try to counter it, but it's going to cost them 3 extra mana, or they can try to swords it, it'll cost them 3 extra mana. So you gotta think, your opponents have to think wisely, including you when it's not your turn, about your mana spendage when this card is out on the field. I've been thinking about taking this out of here for other cards, like Mana Grid, or not Mana Grid, Mana Weave, I think it was, where when you attack your opponents, they tap all lands. But we'll see. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it yet. Next we have just a utility artifact for mana. Soul Ring gives me 2 mana when I tap it. We have a Boros Signet, color fixing. We have a Rakdos Signet, more color fixing. Orzhov Signet, more color fixing. One of my good artifacts in here I have is my Dark Steel Plate. This has saved my general from many, many wraths. When I used to run Obnixilis in my deck, I'd love to put a Dark Steel Plate on my Obnixilis instead of my general, just because I'd rather keep that landfall going and having a huge creature instead of having to worry about my general bringing cards in. But this can go on a lot of your creatures in the game. So it's always one that can stay in the deck. Next we have Swift Foot Boots. It's just another Lightning Greaves. It's 2 and then 1 equip, and gives me hexproof and haste. It's the new Lightning Greaves, but it's still really awesome. And of course we have Lightning Greaves as usual. It's 2 mana, 0 to equip. My creature has Shroud and haste. Here we have Sword of Light and Shadow. It's 3 mana to play, 2 mana to equip. Gives my creature +2/+2, pro white and pro black. When my creature that is equipped on this does damage. Oop. Sorry about that. My creature does damage. I can gain 3 life and return a creature card from my graveyard to my hand. This comes in handy a lot when, after a wrath, I have 1 creature on the board, and I can just, every turn, be bringing creatures back from my graveyard. Next is Sword of Fire and Ice. Has this same boost increase as the last sword, has pro red and pro blue, and when it does combat damage to a player, I can ping a creature or player for 2 and draw a card. Getting this early is nice for the card advantage, but later on, it can be so-so. Next we have Sword of Feast and Famine. This works great, as you'll see later in the deck, with one of my enchantments that allows me to take infinite turns with infinite mana. So it's another utility sword. Here we have Vindicate. It is 1 colorless, white and black. Destroy target permanent. It's what the Angel of Despair basically originally was. This is a I don't need lands anymore card basically. We have Armageddon. Armageddon can save you a lot in games. It has saved me. Say I have a whole ton of creatures on the field, and you don't need to activate any abilities using mana. So you just play your Armageddon, everybody's lands are destroyed, and you don't have to worry about the game anymore. Next is Divine Reckoning. It's a wrath for everything but one of each person's creatures, and it has flashback. I don't use this too often, because normally someone who needs a wrath normally has more than one creature, and they're going to save the best. But early on, this can be good when I just have my general out and nobody has anything amazing out. That's when I'll play it. Here we have Austere Command, our Choice Wrath. Allows you to get 4 or 6 mana to destroy all artifacts or enchantments or creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less, or 4 or greater. This is it's a political wrath, and I love it because people argue so much over what needs to be destroyed. Normally it's all of my stuff, but it changes per game a lot. Next we have just Chroma's Vengeance for another 6 mana. Destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, or you can cycle it to draw a card. But this is just the everything needs to go. I don't even care about my creatures. It's worth having in this deck, I would say. Then we have Reanimate. This is good for, say, if you have your Demon Tutor in the graveyard or your Balefire Dragon to get there to win the game. The Reanimate normally in this deck will win you the game. Living Death, just like Reanimate, if after a huge wrath most of your creatures are in the graveyard, this brings back all your creatures from the graveyard and swing and a miss. Nope, you're going to win. Demonic Tutor, it's 2 mana to go search for anything in your deck. This is one of the new cards from M13, Diabolic Revelation. It's 5 mana plus an X in ability, where you can Demonic Tutor for X. I have played this probably only once so far in the deck, and has gotten me pretty close to winning, but we shall see how it works well later on. Reforge the Soul. As you can see, it is a miracle ability. I have not pulled it off for its a miracle ability yet, but I have wanted to try it in this deck to see how it works. It is a sorry. It's a Wheel of Fortune in this deck that I can cast for 2 or 5. So it's in between actually just playing a regular Wheel of Fortune. I was going to put a original Wheel of Fortune here, but I have yet to test it against a Reforged Soul. So I'll update the deck which one's better or not. Here is just a regular Wheel of Fortune. It's 3 mana to dump your hand, draw 7 cards again. This will stay in here even if I have Reforge the Soul, just because I need a lot of hand refreshment. Like I said, but having Reforge the Soul in here or Wheel of Fortune, it can vary. I might keep both. I might change one out. I don't know. Insurrection. You kind of need this in this deck because you are going to be playing huge fatties that matter. And your opponents are going to be stealing them. And if you're not getting your creatures stolen, you're not playing a good game, apparently. This has saved my butt many times, especially when I have my enchantments out that give me lifelink and double strike. I don't think this cannot not go in this deck. So we have Enlightened Tutor to get my artifacts that I need, or my enchantments that help me get my infinite combos, or just to gain my life back. But you need Enlightened Tutor in here to get you the important key cards that allow you to help with your general come out early if possible. We have Swords to Plowshares. It's just to remove stuff from the game, and your opponent's gain life equal to the creature's power. It's a good removal card. And we have Oblation. You normally want to save this for an opponent's general. I mean, yes, they get to draw 2 cards, but you shuffle their general into their deck, and it's pretty much the best general destruction card, you could say, in the game. Path to Exile. Just remove a card from the game, a creature card from the game, and your opponent gets a land, or you can do it to yourself. So like if your opponent is wrathing, you can Path to Exile your general, get a free land. Next is Vampiric Tutor. Just another tutor I have in here. It's 1 black, and I can pay 2 life, search for any card on my deck, and then put it onto my top of my deck. Chaos Warp. It's a red Oblation, basically. But instead, they shuffle their general or whatever permanent they want. You choose with Chaos Warp from their deck, and from the field into their deck. They shuffle it and then reveal from the top until they reveal a permanent, and they put that permanent onto the field. So it could be better than the one that you put back, or worse. Debtor's Knell. This is a iffy enchantment I have in the deck. It's obviously a card you would play late game. Hasn't really helped me much in the deck. I'm still playtesting it. But it allows me to, for 7 mana, every turn return a creature card from a graveyard into my field, from anybody's graveyard. So it can become a political card, it can become a major hate card, but I don't play this very often, even when I do have it in my hand, just because it's normally I'm winning the game by 7 mana. True Conviction, probably the only enchantment that has ever saved my game the most. Late game, I'm down to 5 life normally. I pull a True Conviction, and all my creatures now have double strike and lifelink, and then I just end up winning the game because nobody stops me after this. Next we have Land Tax. Land Tax is perhaps one of the best cards in this deck to get early turns, maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 turns, first 4 turns to have. I don't run too many basics in here. Got 2 to 3 of each color, but it helps me thin out my deck faster. Necromancy. This enchantment is also, I guess you could say, an instant. It allows me for 3 mana to instant speed return a creature from my graveyard, or sorry, any graveyard, to the field at instant speed. But it dies at end of turn. If you play it as though it's a sorcery speed, the creature stays on the field. So you can use this on any situation, and it's one of the best black revival spells ever I've seen. Phyrexian Arena. It's 3 mana to, at the beginning of your upkeep, lose 1 life, draw a card. Getting this early is good. Getting it late game kind of sucks. Animate Dead. I used to run the World Gorger combo in here, but I just hated it, and everyone hated it when I went off with it, so I took it out. So now I just have Animate Dead. Then when my creature comes back with Animate Dead, it gets a -1, -0. That's really about all it does. Gratuitous Violence. For 5 mana, if a creature you control would deal damage to a creature or player, it deals double that damage to that creature or player instead. This has won me many, many games. I don't know how many, but as soon as I play this and I attack, people have to decide whether they want to block or just take the full brunt of my creatures, because sometimes taking the full brunt of their creatures might end up being less damage than taking gratuitous violence damage. Fervor. Getting Fervor out turn 3 is pretty nice. Getting it out turn 2 is even better. Gives all my creatures haste for 3 mana. This was reprinted just recently in M13. Or sorry, M12. I can't see this deck not running it, just because even when your general's dead, if you have Fervor on the field, getting those fatties out and giving them haste is pretty good. Aggravated Assault. This is one of my combo cards with Sword of Feast and Famine. It's for 3 mana. I can then pay 5 mana to untap all my creatures and have another battle phase over and over again for every 5 mana. So using Sword of Feast and Famine, I have untap my lands after every attack, and then basically tap, attack over and over again until I'm done winning. We have the only Planeswalker in this deck, Sorin of Innistrad. This Planeswalker can come out of the deck. It's not needed in here, but I basically, depending on the situation on the field, I'll use him to make either blockers or just sacrifice him after making an emblem. I think with him I've made about 3 emblems once in a game, so all my creatures got +3/+0. I've never gotten his ultimate off because he ends up dying first, but he's a really good creature, I guess you could say, creature maker to have in this deck. And here we go with the lands. I'll start with the utility lands. First we have Hall the Bandit Lord. Comes into play tapping, and the ability is you pay 3 life, adds 1 colorless mana to your mana pool. If that mana is spent on a creature spell, that creature has haste. So if I can get my general out turn 3 or earlier, or probably earlier, it allows her to attack right away and put out one of my fatties early. And because people love my creatures, I have to put in Homeward Path. It can tap for colorless, or it can tap to have each player gain control of all creatures he or she owns. We have Volrath's Stronghold. So say you have a utility creature that just died and you want to play it again, you can have them put it back on the top of your deck for paying 1 and 1 black. If you haven't also noticed that it is it is gold bordered. My play group accepts gold bordered cards because sometimes cards are just too expensive to buy, especially the price of this. It's gone up a lot. I actually have Phyrexian Tower. It's a great mana land. It's tap for 1 colorless, or I can tap to sack a creature to add 2 black to my mana pool. It's basically another high market in the deck if I really need it. Slayer's Stronghold. I can tap it for 1 colorless, or I can tap it for 1 red and 1 white to give target creature a +2/+0 vigilance and haste until end of turn. I don't often give my general this. Normally it's like a fatty I play from my hand after my general has died. But it's still pretty good if I can get it out pretty early. Sunhome Fortress. It's I guess you could say it was the original Slayer Stronghold. Yeah, I can tap for 1 colorless, or I can tap with 2 colorless, 1 red and 1 white. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. Next we have Vault of the Archangel. You can tap for 1 colorless, or you can tap for 2 colorless, 1 white and 1 black to give a creatures you control Death Touch and Lifelink. Never used the ability on this land yet, but it will come in handy one day. Next we have just my fetch lands. I run Bloodstained Mire, Marsh Flats, Arid Mesa, Scalding Tarn, Verdant Catacombs. Then we have my all-purpose lands, my Reflecting Pool, my Cavern of Soul. Normally I'll just cast it from my general, so I'll call either human or cleric. We have Command Tower, giving me one of the 3 colors. We have a Scrubland, Badlands, a Rugged Prairie, Graven Cairns, a Fetid Heath, a Tainted Field, a Clifftop Retreat, Isolated Chapel, Dragon Skull Summit. Can't remember the English name for this, but it's just another Ravnica dual land for red-white. This is Blood Crypt. I guess maybe black-red. And then we have Godless Shrine. And we have Aegonjo's Castle. It's really nice for my general since she's a 2/2. It'll prevent all damage done to her unless like it's lightning bolt or higher. We have Shizo giving my general fear. So if I have something that's not black blocking, it's really good. Bajuka Bog. This is good against the Reanimator opponents or just any opponent that has a graveyard that's too big to be worrisome about. And then here's my basic lands. I run 3 plains, 2 swamps, and 2 mountains. This is a nice Russian mountain. And that is Kaalia. I will be posting updates to the deck in the future updates. So hope you enjoy. Leave any questions you have in the comments, and enjoy EDH.